I often say food is fuel, and I get a lot of like kickback on that. And it's true that it is fuel, and it's also true that you can love the fuel you're putting into your body. But food is not comfort. It's not entertainment. It's not joy. That's like an irrational mindset.
Hey, everybody, I'm Nourish.
And I'm Jen Giammo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you.
Every week, we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today, we are exploring our relationship with food.
Right, as well as some other things. So let's get started.
She's a celebrity dietitian, nutrition therapist, and author with a bachelor's degree in kinesiology from Tulane and a master's in human metabolism and clinical nutrition from Boston University. She spent over 25 years helping people lose weight and keep it off through her private practice in LA, as well as in hospitals, sports clinics, addiction centers, and universities. In addition to her work with clients, she's an advocate for wellness education and regularly contributes to various media outlets, sharing her expertise and insights on nutrition and healthy living.
Her commitment to enhancing people's lives through personalized health strategies has established her as a respected figure in the field of nutrition and wellness. She's developed 6 simple rules that will change your relationship with food forever. In her book, This Is What You're Really Hungry For, she breaks down the science to get your brain and your body on board. So she's here to share that all with us today. Please welcome Kim Shapira. Kim, welcome to Everybody Talks.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for
Thanks so
being
much.
here. All right, tell us more about you.
Yeah,
we
tell us-
definitely
we definitely skipped over
your
things.
life in
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys are
So fill us in.
Does everybody just laugh with you guys? Is that like what?
They do.
Yeah, I love
We mostly just laugh at each other,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that kind of helps.
Yeah,
for
I love
sure.
it. I mean, what can I say? I'm 51 and I have 3 daughters. One of them, the oldest is 20, 17 and 15, and I have 3 dogs. And then there was my husband, of course. So, very full. I'm very full. And I have a private practice and I see clients privately and in group settings. And I really kind of practice helping people heal their relationship with food. So I'm a dietitian, but I do really call myself more a nutrition therapist because very, very early on in my career, I started seeing the patterns of the way that people eat, and it had nothing to do with kale. It had nothing to do with what was healthy. And so I really started working on the way they think about food rather than what they're eating.
Yeah, that's so true.
It is so true. I mean, as someone who's, suffered with their weight for, I would say, most of my adult life, it's all, you realize it really just all boils down to that
Yeah.
simple thing. Yeah.
Yeah, those
definitely.
habits and I want to get
Yeah.
into that a little bit. But
Yeah.
first, just tell us, what is the Kim Shapira Method? And then what was your inspiration behind creating this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think can I start with my inspiration?
Of course.
Yeah. I was a sick kid and I wanted to be healthy. And I spent a year when I was 12 in and out of the hospital. And then the next 4 years going to UCLA to see my specialist. And, I wanted to be healthy. And somebody along the way in high school told me that food could make you sick or healthy. And that was it for me. I was going to eat to be healthy, and I was going to help the rest of the world eat to be healthy. At some point when I was younger, I must have been crying on the way to the doctor. And my mom said to me, "Don't cry, we'll go shopping after your doctor appointment."
I love your mom.
Yeah, I love my mom. And you know what? She gave me the greatest gift. I was able to put my mind somewhere other than the room that I was in. And I had been in so much pain and I was shy and I had 4 specialists and my body was not my own. And I just had this gift where I could think about what I was going to buy at Bullock's. And, I went to the doctors often and that's what I did. And it turned out that every emotion I had, I thought buying something new was a great idea. I mean, all the papers I ever wrote were on like the Nordstrom half-yearly sale, the sound of a cash register. Hearing there was a commercial where it was like open. Like that was me. I'm like, I can't wait to go buy things. And I wasn't that interested in food. I didn't have a history of, you know, any food drama, but I will tell you there was a point when I had come home from being in the hospital for a while, and my best friend's mother said to me, "Oh my gosh, Kim, you gained weight."
Oh.
And it's really interesting because the way that it landed on me was, "You look healthy now, Kim."
Oh.
And
Wow.
I think that's like a really important like distinction, because for so many people and for the wrong person, it could have really been harmful. And, so for me, it was never about that. It just had to do with how my health was. And my first client was a therapist, and I was 27. I had immediately opened a private practice to kind of go and save the world and make everybody healthy with food. And I put her on a diet. And then she said to me after she had lost 30 pounds, "I'm going to gain the weight back." And this was very, very, very triggering for me, because I didn't have good boundaries. And this was like a personal attack. Like, why would you do that?
Why
We
would you do
literally
Yeah.
just
that?
changed your life. You're
Yeah.
Yeah.
healthy now. We
Yeah.
lowered your cholesterol, your blood pressure, all the things. And she said, "My husband wants to be physically intimate with me, and I was molested as a child."
Oh.
And so there
Oh
was
my
this
God.
moment for me that I had this like wow moment where I was like, "Oh no, I don't know anything about the people living inside of their bodies, and it has nothing to do with food." And then as I started kind of doing a deeper dive, I started recognizing they eat the same way that I'm shopping. And I was so annoyed because my friends and, my family had told me that I have a shopping addiction, and I really called bullshit on it often. Like, "What are you talking about? I absolutely do not. I just like new things." And then I had to like do it, like I had to look inside and recognize like, "Oh, okay. I see that maybe I don't need to buy everything I want and think I need." And I started applying that. And that is how my rules, my 6 steps became what they are. And it started with me deciding I'm going to think about something and put it on hold rather than go and buy it. And then I'm only going to buy things I love, and I'm not going to buy things someone else loves. And I'm going to start applying that to food. And then there was another moment I was on the phone with my mom, and I was trying to hurry up and get off the phone because I needed to go to Bloomingdale's and buy something because it was on sale. And she laughed at me and said, "Kim, Bloomingdale's has a sale every single week." And I was like, "That it cannot be true. It's like, if I don't buy this right now, it's never gonna happen." And this was like probably the 90s or late 90s, right? So there was no internet. I didn't know that I could go to another store and buy the same thing.
Mhm.
And her comment pissed me off. And I had to then sit back and recognize that she was right.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so that became the same thing with food. As I started saying to my clients, there's food on every corner. You know that you're safe, there's food in the kitchen. And then I started recognizing how important it was for our mind to know that we were safe and how unsafe we all feel. And so it really all clicked for me. And that's how everything came to be. So it starts with knowing where your mind is.
Yeah.
Okay, I have so many thoughts on
I
this.
do too.
First of all, I want to
Yeah.
say that we are kindred spirits.
Totally. The shopping. When you said that, I was like, I'm sorry.
I always say like I'm a recovering,
Yeah.
I have, and I recognize too, like that I had an addiction, and it wasn't until it was sort of pointed out to me in different ways, but the same thing. But the way that you have, like recognized those or put those two things
Right.
together to be so similar. I mean, it makes all the sense in the
Yes.
world.
Yeah.
And I never would have
Yeah.
thought about that. I always thought of it as like it's filling this void. There's something
Right.
missing. This is my go-to is always
Right.
shop when I'm sad, when I'm anxious, when I'm angry, when I'm whatever, go shopping because that fixes all of it.
Right.
But it never did, right? It was always like, well, what's next and what's next and what's next?
Yeah.
And then you end up with a closet full of 100. At one point I had 147 pairs of jeans. So I'm like, this is absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
what's
And you
happening,
walk
but
into
Yeah.
your closet and you're like, "I have nothing to wear."
Nothing to
I
wear.
I have.
know.
Like, what emotion was I feeling when I bought that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I ended up studying, more spiritual psychology and neuroscience and quantum physics, and really like looking at astrology and seeing how astrology is kind of like a weather report. And we kind of get this weather report every morning. And if I know there's a storm, I can be less reactive. I can be more prepared. And like really starting to understand how my mind works and how my client's mind works. And, I often say food is fuel, and I get a lot of like kickback on that. And it's true that it is fuel, and it's also true that you can love the fuel you're putting into your body. But food is not comfort, it's not entertainment, it's not joy. It is That's like an irrational mindset. And so now I have these tools that I can help my clients really find their mind, bring it back into their body, and then like as you said, say, "Oh, I see that I'm bored. I see that I'm stressed. A way to move forward here." And sometimes it's just staying here and being uncomfortable, trusting that it's going to pass.
Yeah.
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 I used to say to clients too, like, hunger is not an emergency.
Yeah.
You don't have to,
Yeah.
eat immediately when you feel hunger. It's not an emergency. You're not
Yeah.
gonna. So that's wow. I love that analogy. Talk to us about the 6 steps. What are these 6 steps that you employ?
Yeah. So the first one is to eat when you're physically hungry. And I'm going to just stop there for 1 second because a lot of people don't know that hunger is in your stomach. It's isolating to your stomach. It's not painful. It's not scary. Like you said, it's not an emergency. Sometimes it is.
Right.
But in general, it's kind of like having to pee. We don't know
Right.
where our bladder is, but we do know when we have to pee. And we also don't run to the bathroom when we have to pee. We take a second, we scan our body. We also figure out where the toilet is. We also know that we're safe. And so hunger is the same. We should be hungry every few hours. So you eat when you're hungry, you take your normal portion, you cut it in half. And this really allows that ghrelin and leptin to tell your mind that you're satisfied. So you take your normal portion, you cut it in half, you smell your food, you eat your food slowly, and then you come back to the food of the second half of the 15-minute mark to see how much more food your body needs, trusting it's not going anywhere.
Right.
That's rule number 1. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying to our wellness group, like I clearly have an addiction to food. There's something about it that whatever is in my psyche, definitely. So I'm in. I'm all in.
Then I'm talking to your psyche, and I wanna know
Yes.
whatever your
Yeah.
psyche feels a visceral reaction and, like, wants to shy away from something I'm saying, because we make all of our choices from a place of fear or trust. And so, like, I think Esther Perel says it best. She says we can have 8 relationships in a lifetime, sometimes 8 with the same person, and then I would say we can have 8 with ourselves. And so, like, in this moment, we're in a new relationship, and we get to figure out how we want that to be. Rule number 2 is to eat what you love, with the caveat that the food has to love you back. And if you really do this rule correctly, it's eating what you love when you're hungry, starting with half. And as our friend Jenny Hutt says, starting with half is that fail safe, that you won't overeat.
Right.
And so then you can start trusting, oh, I can eat what I love.
Right.
But there's that caveat that the food has to love you back. So when you are having any side effects from food, and that could be, headache, foggy brain, it could be tearing eyes, runny nose, clearing your throat, burping, heartburn, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, psoriasis, eczema, joint pain, things like that, then you know something you're eating is actually not agreeing with your body. And then that's harming the health of your gut. And we have to repair that. So then you have to kind of look at why you're eating certain foods. And this rule really helps people with the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the health and unhealthy.
Do you think people can recognize that right away? Or I mean, I think with food sensitivities that kind of happens over time, right? You don't necessarily know I'm not sure what I ate that caused me to feel this way, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of recognizing that.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a really good point. So if I eat something at breakfast, let me put it this way. If I am sensitive to a food, which I think we all are on some level,
Sure.
at different levels. And mine certainly have changed over the years. I mean, there was a period where I had pneumonia and took 2 courses of antibiotics back to back. And then suddenly I was running to the bathroom. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like 47 years old and I've never had this issue and I can't make it. And turns out I became completely milk intolerant. And I'm pretty sure it was the antibiotics and the pneumonia. And now I can have milk and I have no problem because I've healed my gut. So sensitivities come, they're temporary, and you need to do some work to heal your gut. But what you were saying is really interesting because if you eat something you're sensitive to, we're really talking about proteins. And those proteins will affect you 2 to 4 hours after you eat it and up to 3 days. So
Oh,
you could
wow.
totally not feel well tomorrow, and it could be something you're eating today.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I realized that.
We don't like stop and smell our food. And it's so important for our mouth to water before we eat. And all of the enzymes we need to break down the food are in our saliva. And so if we're stressed or not feeling well or eating distracted, we're not going to have that mouth water and we're going to end up with digestive distress. And then if we're not chewing our food completely, like the way that I see our mouth, that's our digestion. That's the beginning of digestion. And we need to be chewing our food something like between 15 and 44 bites per food. I mean, a steak would be 44 bites, an apple would be more like 15, but we do not chew our food. And so we are swallowing whole pieces of something that becomes unrecognizable that actually causes our body to create an inflammatory response. And that's one of the major problems. So even just smelling your food and chewing your food will change your digestive patterns.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that because I think about like I mean I love the smell of like fresh baked bread or something that like really and I can feel
Yeah.
my mouth
totally.
watering for it.
Totally.
And it's like
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel like
Well,
that's almost the beginning.
think about pickles. Think about lemon. Like think about
Yeah.
like sipping on lemon right now. All we have to do is think about
Think
it.
about
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And you feel like that, you get that like sharp
Good.
pain in your jaw. Like I
Yeah.
definitely get that.
Or
Yes.
you
Yeah.
start to
Yeah,
excrete
yeah, yeah, yeah,
those salivary, you
100%.
actually your
Yeah.
salivary
And
glands.
if somebody doesn't have that, they're not ready to eat. Like I will tell you right now, if anyone who's listening who doesn't have their mouth watering before the first bite, they should just take some deep breaths because their body is stressed. And so all of the things that they need are actually in their extremities to run from the lion that has come into the room. And so they really need to take some deep breaths to be like able to properly break down food. And then just to say a little bit more on this, if anyone's listening and is experiencing this and doesn't do a food sensitivity test, there's two ways of thinking. One is know what you're sensitive to and eliminate them for a short while. And the second way is don't eliminate them because that feels restrictive. And if you come from a disordered background, we don't want to add more stress like that. So we want to just do the things we would do anyway, which is add omega 3s. And I like to add them in the form of flaxseed, chia seed, or hemp seed. You want to add a probiotic. You want to add fermented foods, and that could be in yogurt. It could be in sauerkraut, kimchi. You want to add whole grains that you can tolerate, and you want to add a diverse amount of fruits and vegetables every day. Those things really do work on healing that mucosal layer of your gut.
You just mentioned something that made me think. So you said like if that response is not happening when you're about to eat, then your body's not ready to eat. So I have an issue with stress. Like I hold a lot of stress and it's always in my stomach. My stomach feels like it's in knots. And I'm going through something right now that's particularly stressful. And this has been like a few weeks of this where I don't want to eat anything. Like there's nothing that is appealing to me. Like what would you tell somebody? Like how do you manage that? Because like clearly I'm sitting down to eat and I'm not salivating for anything because I
Yeah.
don't want to eat.
And that's a coping mechanism. So actually your body's protecting you.
Mm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you don't have the right stuff in your mouth to help break down food. So we have to talk about like resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're not going to like all the seasons we're in. And we have to make some things that are not negotiable, like sleep. But we'll get to that in rule number 6. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
but truthfully, going to sleep and waking at the same time, knowing that you can have good sleep, that you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up rested is really important. You want to maybe look at taking supplements for cortisol levels. I can send you a couple of my favorite if you're not already taking that. You need to start taking good, deep, calming breaths. And I love a box breath. So a box breath is, for people who don't know, is you inhale through your nose. You could start with a count of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, and then you hold it for the same count. Then you exhale through your nose for the same count, and then you hold it for the same count, and that creates a box. And then you repeat it and you do 3, 4, or 5 cycles of it. And what that does is it produces a nitric oxide. And that actually it's almost like when you do box breathing, it's almost like you just ate 2 or 3 servings of fruits and vegetables. It produces all of the same, like almost nutrients that clear out some of the inflammation. Yes. Box
Wow.
breathing. Yeah. Do you know, like when you meditate, it sounds like you're in a lot of fight or flight right now. And I would say most people are chronically stressed. And stress is interesting because it comes from perceived, I'm afraid of the person walking next to me, comes from physical pain. It comes from what I'm worrying about is going to happen next week. And all stress is the same, although they're a little different. Your body responds the same way. And so the second it detects that you're stressed, your mind detects that it's stressed, you end up having about 1,400 different sensations that occur in your body in under 10 seconds. And it tips off the hippocampus. And in the hippocampus, you have a memory that shopping is going to fix this problem. And then it tips off the pituitary and then the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are where your cortisol, your sex hormones, and your insulin is all being taken care of. And so all of these things are getting disrupted. And so now you're even more out of balance. And then if you're not sleeping well, you're actually, when we sleep, melatonin, which is a naturally occurring hormone, which is also an antioxidant, goes in and cleans all of your cells. And so if you're not sleeping well, then you're actually waking up even more inflamed. So much is happening. So the idea is to meditate and like really work on getting your mind out of fight or flight, your body out of fight or flight into this rest and digest space. You can think about your mind is spending a lot of time in the emergency room and it needs to be spending a lot of time in the healing room. And so, kind of taking as many opportunities in your day to get to that healing room. And I love supplements for people who really need extra support temporarily, maybe long term, to work on all the things that are going to help you get to that healing room.
Okay.
So are you saying that so she knows she's going out to dinner, let's say. I mean, I've been around long enough to know that she's not going to want to eat dinner because she's stressed out. So are you saying that before we go to dinner, she does this box breathing, that will help relax her into wanting to eat?
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, even taking like aromatherapy, right? Which is this particular one is formulated to help your nervous system. There's a few that are, so you can find one that is. But when you don't sniff aromatherapy, right? You inhale. So
You
it's like
inhale
this.
it.
Right. Okay.
That is a calming breath.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
using aromatherapy throughout your day will like really cause you to take calming breaths. It's forcing you to, right? So
Okay.
like relaxing. Plus it smells so good that I'm
Yeah.
now like tipping off other parts of my brain. It could be, and there has been in my life where I needed to use this 100 times in a day. And sometimes I forget about it for weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? So like it could be that right now you need 100 times today.
Or
Okay.
two.
Or two or three.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
But
I'm
like
just
let's
joking
let's
about
do this really quick. I'm going to ask both of you to repeat after me, okay? I want you to repeat, where is my body?
Where
Where
is
is
my
my
body?
body?
And then say it's right here.
It's right
It's right here.
And then say, where is my mind?
Where's my
Where's my
mind?
mind?
Okay, so now both of you go find your mind. And let me know if it's here.
I know hers is not. Hers is not. Mine is.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Mine's kind of here. It's half here.
It's half
See, I
here.
love that you knew that because you don't even know where your mind is, but you know it. Okay, so I love that. Let's do it again. Where is my
Okay.
body?
Where's my body?
It's right here.
It's
right here.
Where is my mind?
Where's my mind?
Where's my mind?
Okay, go find it. There's no rush.
Now it's here. It's here.
Yeah.
Perfect. See, that
It's
was
here.
only took you 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can do that before you eat too. And then you can smell your food.
That's interesting.
Wow.
That is such
Yeah.
a like.
That is really like a revelation because I mean, like I said, like I've been around enough to know that
My mind is not always
it's
present.
not
I mean,
present.
it's
And also she has no desire to eat because of a stress that's in her life.
Yeah,
So,
because her mind is over here.
yeah,
She's not
right.
in
it's
her body.
constantly
I'm not in my
like,
body.
No, you're
Not
not
in my
You're
body.
not ever.
But that's the problem.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
that's why I'm so glad we're talking about this. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing, because I
Yeah.
think so many people eat or shop when they're not in their body.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
And they
that's
also
true.
drink, they also cheat, they also cut. There are so many things that they're doing because it's not safe in their body. And so we don't control how fast our heart beats, that our lungs breathe, that our stomach digests. We also are not responsible for our mind thinking. And that you really have to like kind of separate your physical body from your emotional body. And so we'll talk about the emotional body in a second, but your body is meant to survive. And all of your organs are here to help you do it. And your mind specifically wants you to do it in the most pleasurable way. So if you're having discomfort, perceived, physical, or imaginary, if you're hungry, if you're bored, if you're full, all of these things are distress, are discomfort. Your mind says, let me find a way that's going to be more pleasurable than the moment you're in. You actually don't need help. You need to tell your mind, you know what? I've got this actually. Thank you for making me think about shopping when I was younger and you helped me then. I don't need that now. I could be here and know that I can survive this moment.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, wow, it's so crazy that you're saying this because literally yesterday, I did exactly this. So it was a very stressful thing that I had gone through, and I literally, right after it was over, I immediately went shopping.
Yeah,
I immediately went shopping.
yeah.
And I was like, oh my, and even seeing like there was like a sale, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I need right now. I need that. I don't even know what's in there, but I need to have whatever's on sale and I
Yeah.
need to have it right now. Because I didn't want to feel the way that I was feeling. But I'm only recognizing that now that you're saying it.
All the studies prove that we are rewarded from anticipation. So think about you and I can think about shopping all day long, but people who are, in the food, are worried about their diets in general, they aren't with their food. And they even think they love food, which is shocking to me. Like we said, there could be 100 pair of jeans in our closet and we have nothing to wear. So we are rewarded by the fact that I get to put it in my mouth. We're not even rewarded by what's in our mouth. Otherwise, we would spend time chewing our food, right? Because we would know that food is
right.
fuel. It's meant to
Yeah.
take care of my body that I'm in.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so busy over here, out here, being emotional. And we can be emotional and be hungry. We just have to know the difference.
Oh my God, that's like really kind of an epiphany right
I
now
know.
for me. It's crazy. Okay, so
That's an opportunity, which is not to me, like I have one of my favorite quotes is, I'm going to take the word illness out and put disordered eating. But if this disordered eating right now feels like a cage, please try to hear me. The door is unlocked and you are free to go. And the thing about eating disorders or shopping or disordered eating is that it's very safe inside the cage. You know that you can shop and that you can return it, or you can, shop and it's not going to hurt anything. No one's suffering. You're not gaining weight or whatever. It's the same anyway with food. But the reason why people stay in the cage when the door is open is because it's like a very warm, comfortable blanket, even though it's uncomfortable. And we don't use our imagination to think what it feels like outside of that cage. And so here you are in this season that feels stressful. And I'm telling you, you don't need to go shopping, but that's taking away your security blanket. And so you don't even know what it's going to look like outside the cage. You have to actually spend time knowing that you're going to be okay out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
In order
Yeah.
for you to see that shopping has its place in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You need things,
Right.
Right.
just like you need food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it only should take up one place in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems as though like it sort of activates that same pleasure center. Like for
Yeah.
someone who loves to eat or loves food, right? It's the same thing for me. That same pleasure center is being activated, and that's where the addiction part, I guess, comes from,
Yeah.
right?
But we can be in a different relationship with ourselves. And that's the thing, is like we can say, this is who I want to be. And now I'm going to align myself with what that's going to take. And like, again, we make all choices from fear or trust. And I just told you the door is open, but it's not safe out there because you've never really survived out there. And so you don't know if that's going to be as good as shopping.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
And that's the fear.
very
And so we
funny.
shut
Yeah.
down because we don't do things that are hard. Because our mind wants to say, let's make this moment more fun. Why should we do hard? And here's the paradox. People who are doing hard, let's say with quotes, they're having fun. And so if we can start using our imagination and see that when I eat foods I love that make my body feel good and my health is great and that I'm sleeping and that I'm doing all of these things, I actually find that more fun than being in pain. And so it's not as hard as I thought. And so we have to kind of recognize that our mind shuts down the second we hear hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to say, not today, mind.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm constantly talking to my mind and telling it
Constantly.
to shut up.
Yeah,
Constantly telling it to
Doesn't
shut
always
up.
work, for sure.
But
One quick
Yeah.
thing you can say if you forget to say, where's my body, where's my mind? I just remember like my mom had been septic a couple of years ago. She's okay, thank God. And I was in the shower having a conversation with the doctor. It was during COVID, which means I was never going to talk to the doctor. But here I was in the shower, shaving my legs, having a full-on conversation. And then, of course, I started laughing at myself. And then I asked myself what time zone my mind was in. And I
Wow.
recognized it was in the hospital with her.
Yeah.
And then I was back to the shower, shaving my legs. And a second later, back in a conversation with the doctor. And so again, that was one of those times where I had to do it a few times to bring my mind back to the moment I was in.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is so helpful. You have no
I know.
idea,
Yeah.
Kim, how helpful this is for me right now, because that's exactly like, whew. I didn't think I was going to cry talking.
I know, talking
to a nutrition expert
I
here.
know. But yeah, but she's hit a nerve. It's like a nerve that we know is very close to the surface.
Yeah.
And
but everything she's saying is
Yeah.
like what I'm doing. It's like
Yes.
I'm doing all those things.
Yes.
I'm having these, I mean, I lay awake
Yes.
at night having these conversations and I'm, and it's obviously it's keeping me awake, but it's also like it's not resolving anything. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
I keep hitting that wall of like, I'm
Right.
frustrated,
There's
I'm
nothing you can
frustrated,
do.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
But on the flip side, I will say, like, and I was saying this to Lori earlier, like when I do distract myself, right, with something, whether it's work, whether it's shopping, whether, you know, whatever it is, I'm good in that distracted moment in time. And then when that's over, I feel the shit that I was feeling before even like heavier. Then it's like, oh, I forgot about that for a minute. But it's still there. It's still here. It's still like heavy. So like trying to work through that. But I think like all of these tips are so good. Like
So
even just
great.
recognizing
Yeah.
like, where is your mind?
Right.
And
Right.
the idea that you can't control everything, you know?
I know.
There's I would try to do a little bit of a gratitude practice. Because like in this moment, you're safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's always going to come down to safety, because your mind will go into overdrive when it's unsafe. It's going to look to solve the problem. And that makes your mind go over there, right? And we need our mind here in this moment. And so now then you're talking about my mind is in my body and my body it's tight, it's tense. So now you actually have to do things to unwind your body. And things that I would do in that case is use the mantra is I trust the universe. I trust the universe. And maybe you don't believe it yet, but I would keep saying it until you actually start relaxing in your body. I would do Reiki on my own body. Are you familiar with Reiki?
I am. Yeah, I'm Reiki certified, actually. Yeah.
Perfect. So I would I would look at my aura, and not that I can read auras, but one thing that I like to do is, like, put my palms together and kind of like squeeze my hands together, kind of like tighten all this area in my chest, and then just like close my eyes and picture my aura, and then kind of snap above my head a funnel, like an opening where I can pour in all of this healing energy and let it just kind of flow into my body. And once I feel like that's full, then I could, open my hands and let it fill my aura. Just seal tight all my boundaries in any way that I need to. And then when I feel like that's complete, close the practice, shut it up. Maybe you want to keep that shutterfly open and just allow the energy to kind of pour through you all day long. um, I would spend some time looking at your body almost like an x-ray and seeing what doesn't belong. And it sounds like you have a bowling ball in your stomach that needs to kind of be sent away. And so I would imagine that letting that energy out and filling it with, healing energy. I would do that often,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
that's
and then
helpful.
come back to, like, your body needs to know you're safe. And
Hmm.
in this moment you are.
Right. Right.
And that's all we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just really like moment to moment is all that you have. It's
Yeah.
so true.
And you're, yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's
Yeah.
who
it's
was
what
saying
Peter
Peter
Crone.
Crone was
Yeah,
saying to us, like, you
We-
don't live in the the past
Future.
and the past and the future don't exist. They don't
only
exist.
the present exists. Only right now
Yes.
exists.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
only
Yeah.
thinking in the future is like worrying and,
Yeah.
practicing worry on, like, for the
Sure.
future. We need
Sure.
to,
Yeah.
I think we're all guilty of that anticipatory,
yeah,
whatever that is,
Anxiety.
and
different stages of our life.
Yeah.
different things. Like you're looking forward, and
Mhm.
if you don't want to look back, so you can only look forward, but you really should just be looking around where you
Yeah.
are.
I mean, you
Looking-
can't predict
Yeah.
the storm, as I like to say, and it's unfortunate. I mean, 2 years ago, we were in Paris and my daughter got hit by a car. She's okay. She's okay. It took a year to recover, and, like, it was
Oh
a
my
lot. It was a
goodness.
lot. She's okay. It was a lot. But I remember I was not resilient. I couldn't recover. And just because I'd now seen what was gonna she couldn't go back to school for rush. Like, there was a lot involved that, and I remember saying to my husband 2 days later, "I'm still not okay. I still can't catch my breath." And, there are these seasons when it takes a longer moment and you just, like, you have to do the things even more. Just really practice, because that's how you rewire your brain. And in order to get a fight or flight, it is about resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that resiliency is so key. I mean, I don't know if you wear an Aura ring, but, like, I'm always looking at my resiliency
score,
and my
yeah.
HRV, and lately it has been, like, just horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
horrible. I look at it and I'm like, oh, the trend is going like
Down.
this. Like,
Yes.
that is not the way I want it to be going. But anyway, all right, enough about me. I interrupted you 700 times, and we're
only on step 2.
Step 2. So step 3. This is what we do here. We
This is
get
what we do. We very-
very off track.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. But I feel like it's going to help so many people.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah. So rule number 3 is to eat without distraction. So we eat because the food is in front of us. We eat for emotional reasons. We eat for cravings. And I only want people to eat because they're hungry. Yeah. So that one, it can be a TV. It can be, something you're reading. But I would recommend, like, just being with your food, because, again, people say they love their food, but really nobody wants to be alone with it.
You're right. And
Right.
you're not paying attention half the time. I mean, I'm so guilty
Right.
of that. Like, my
Yeah.
morning breakfast is always like, okay, breakfast and Wordle. Like, I do them
Yeah,
at the same time,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So if you're always distracted, I would recommend just kind of slowing down. You're allowed to be distracted, but once you check in, like, we all know when we have to pee. You should know when you're hungry and know how much you need. We have that ability. Rule number 4 is 10,000 steps every single day. The average American gets about 3,000. And we know to reduce your risk of sudden death, you need at least 7,000. And then to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's, 7,000. And I would say at least 10,000 to maintain your weight and to help with your sleep and wake cycles and your, to get more endorphins, to get all of those good, every time you contract your muscle, you actually release endorphins. And so that really does improve your mood.
It's so funny. I'm my day job. I work in TV, and so we're owned by Disney. And then they wanted everyone. There was a 10,000 step challenge among all the stations, like the owned and operated. So there's the people in Chicago, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Texas, and New York. And even within the New York crew, like I walk to work every day. I'm lucky enough to be able to do that, which is 2 miles. And another friend of mine was also doing it. She also walks to work. And we were looking at we were like 15,000. My minimum is 15,000 steps a day. And the people in our newsroom were like, are you guys training for a marathon? Like, why do you have so many steps? But it's just like, that's the way I like to do things. And you could see in other cities how hard it was for them to get to that 10,000 steps. I take for granted New York.
That's like you just said, the hard and the easy. You're having fun doing it. Like,
Yeah. We
couldn't feel hard.
No. I mean, my friend got so competitive that in one day she walked 40,000 steps. She got a TV for her trouble, by the way, as a prize.
She won?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
But it was funny because she was so into it. Like, she just needed to get the 40,000 steps. It was crazy.
That is crazy.
It was very funny.
Yeah, but like if you can eat the food you love, if you can move the way you love, then you're going to have way more success carrying it on.
Yeah, and when you enjoy
Definitely.
it, and also like when it just is a part of your life, your
Right.
everyday life. And I get it, like not everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're spoiled to live in New York City where the choice is always to walk somewhere, not to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then rule number 5 is to drink 8 cups of water every single day. And this is like people are always looking for like a detox. This is a detox. So this goes and airs out and cleans out all of your cells. So we need those 8 cups of water. And if you don't drink enough water, your liver has to take over. And your liver's job is to actually metabolize fat, body fat, cholesterol, and triglycerides. So if you don't drink enough water, you end up gaining fat, cholesterol, and triglycerides. No bueno. And the last rule is to get 7 hours of sleep. The average American is getting 6.5. And this is also not great. So we do need between 7 and 9 hours, but because so many people are having such a hard time just getting 7, that's why I have the rule of 7.
You try to make it a little realistic.
I know she's amazing. Like my I'm off from work right now, but on a normal work flow, I get about 5.5. I really don't even.
Oh,
I don't
no.
get much at all. Yeah.
Well, for you, so she wakes up at 4:30
Yeah,
in
I
the
get
morning.
up very early.
But so the only alternative is to go to bed much earlier.
Which I find I have a lot of difficulty doing that for some reason. I think I get home from work kind of late and then I want to unwind. And then before I know it, and I find that once I get into bed, my eyes just like, oh, I'm awake. Like I can fall asleep on my couch, no problem. And then as soon as I'm like, okay, you're falling asleep, let's go. And I get into bed and I am eyes wide
So
open.
here's what happens. I have 3 kids, and I remember the pediatrician saying to me, when you notice that your child is drowsy or tired, that's their sign you need to put them right to bed. If you miss that window, it overrides their brain and wakes them up. And so it happens that we're the same as these babies.
Yeah.
And so when melatonin is released, which is the hormone that causes us to feel drowsy, if we ignore it or we fall asleep on the couch, then what ends up happening is we've now overridden our brain and we can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
So
that
it
happens to me.
sounds like you are getting tired and you're
Yes.
ignoring it.
Yes.
She totally is. She
I
totally
totally
is. She
do.
has to
Yeah.
watch the next, episode of Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is, that's true. I mean, I have to say, like, I'm pretty good about
You are.
that. Like,
Yeah.
I will get into, especially, it's funny in the summer, it gets dark so much later. And sometimes I'm tired and it's 8:00 and I'm like, is it
Still light
okay
out.
to go to bed? It's still light outside. I feel
Yeah.
weird,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah,
I don't
I think
care.
it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's fine. And I do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah,
Everyone
no, I
should be
definitely,
like you. I mean, our body thrives in consistency. It likes to poop at the same time, wake at the same time, go to sleep at the same time, eat, all the things. So the more that we can be consistent, the better our body's going to feel.
okay. So you touched on this a little bit. being like mindful when you eat. So what is the difference between intuitive eating and mindful eating?
Good question. I'm not an intuitive dietitian.
Okay.
So I think that they're probably similar,
Similar. Okay.
but
I'm
I've
not sure I
only,
even understand what that means, intuitive.
yeah, there's so many things I want to say right now. The definition of mindful means knowing where your mind is without judgment. Okay. So that's the practice that I would highly recommend. Like, we don't need to know why my mind is there. I just need to know my mind is in my body now, and then scan my body and see how I feel. Intuitive, I remember there was, I got invited to be a speaker, and there was a woman who was also speaking on the stage, and I met with her briefly to kind of discuss what we were going to talk about. And I said, well, food is fuel. And she said to me, I can't be on the stage with somebody who thinks that way.
What?
And and she was actually more popular than me. And anyway, the company ended up telling me that I couldn't do it because they wanted her.
Wow.
And I think food is fuel for our body, and I don't think it's comfort and joy or entertainment. I think that other things are those things. And I think when we need those things, we can have those things, but that's not what food is. Food can be part of that, but that's not what food is. And I think an intuitive dietitian might say, eat when you think you should eat. And that's not me. I say eat when you're physically hungry. I also say sometimes there's birthday cake, and that's very normal to eat birthday cake. But if you're eating birthday cake every day at 3 p.m., that's a bad
That's not
habit.
so bad. Yeah, that's not so good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Not
think
so
an
good.
intuitive person or nutritionist, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
would say, eat the birthday cake. I'm not sure. It's not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I just
Gotcha.
wasn't sure if
Right.
you hear those terms and I always wondered how are they different? But that makes
Right.
sense. That makes sense. I feel like with intuitive eating, you're sort of, it's like you're listening to what you think your body wants to eat. And it's like, well, if it's birthday cake every day at 3:00, that's probably not really
Right.
what you should be listening to.
Yeah, you shouldn't be
So
listening
that,
to that.
that makes
Exactly.
sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about like changing your relationship with food too. Do you think that most people are aware of their relationship with food, or are they
No.
oblivious to it? They're not.
I don't, people aren't aware of their relationship with their own body.
Yeah.
We're so busy being emotional and running through life that, oh, my body told me I had to pee. My body's going to tell me when I'm hungry. Oh my gosh, thank you, body. No, I don't think we're aware. And then we have a lot of projections, right? We spend, as we're growing up, 60 hours with our peers a week, and they're spending time with their parents and their eating habits and their cultural habits. And take a mom or a dad who has an eating disorder or feels that one food is bad or hurts their stomach, and this kid is just learning who they are, and now they're unsure if it's theirs or their mom's or their friends. So I think no, we're very, very unaware. And I think the more I can get a person to go inside of their own body and see how they're feeling, the more success we're going to have.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way to like nip these things in the bud when you're a kid? You watch, parents with kids who, a kid starts to cry and they only want them to do is to stop crying. So they hand them a cupcake, cookie, ice cream, like anything bad. And so those kinds of things stay with you, for your whole life. I mean, I have said this also before. Jen's tired of hearing all my things, but when I was a kid, I had to be a member of the Clean Plate Club. And so
Yes,
I had to
that's
eat
right there.
everything on my plate, and you couldn't leave. I mean, I remember my sister once had a standoff with my mother because, I don't know, she was making us drink, literally, it was like maybe 4 ounces of milk at breakfast every day. And my sister dug her heels in, and
Yeah.
she would
Yeah.
not do it. And it's like they came to kind of blows. And so those kinds of things, I realize, it's just like I carry literally the weight of those things,
Yeah. I
throughout
want to
my
spend
life.
hours. Please invite me back, because I would love to spend hours on this. I think food is food.
Yeah.
And I think all food is food. And if we can label all food as a banana, then we're going to question whether we're hungry for the banana or not. But when we sensationalize food as good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, then there's like a sense of restriction. And what happens in our body is that if we've restricted, we're now like threatening our survival. So we're going to binge. And then we suddenly think we're bad or we're a binger. But really, our body was protecting us, it's trying to help us survive. And then we have this emotional stuff going on and all the noise out there, and somebody's doing celery, and maybe I should do that, but I don't like celery and I'm having diarrhea. Like, again, I think we just need to take a deep breath and trust our own bodies and like listen to what hunger is telling us. And again, like I would go back to saying, like, I'm in a new relationship with myself. My mom, according from your growing up, she had limitations and she got those limitations from her family. And so she really did the best that she could, I'm sure of it, with as much love as she had and the capacity she could, as everyone is doing, right? She didn't know saying food is bad or eat this. She wanted you to get calcium. She was trying to get your bones strong. And what ended up happening is you got traumatized and now you've got to master that trauma. And that's okay. You will.
Yeah.
I often wonder, though, I mean, my brother and I, well, we kind of grew up with different parents. It's a much more complicated story than I want to go into now. But you always think like, okay, you're raised in the same home. You're raised with the same thing, like my sister and I. And it just is, you just turn out so different. My relationship with food is so different from my sister's
There's lots
and
of
my
studies on
brother's.
perspective.
Yeah.
And, the studies are very impressive, but no two people see the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, you gave a great example when we first started talking, and you said that, your friend's mom said to you, "Oh, Kim, you look like you
Right.
gained weight," and you took that as like, "Oh,
Such a positive
I look
thing.
healthy."
That the two of us were like, oh, that's no good.
Most people, I think that there's a lot of
Yeah.
women or young girls
Yeah.
that would think, "Oh,
Yeah, I think
no," because
that's-
we've
yeah.
stigmatized that.
Yeah.
And I've been in that
Yeah.
situation too with clients where I've said to them, I think I used the term strong, like, "Oh my gosh, you're looking so strong," and they took it to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, did I gain weight? Am I fat?" It's like, "Oh no, that's
Yeah.
not what I meant at all."
Yeah.
We forget, the words that you choose land differently on different
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
So I think,
interesting.
with that
Yeah.
example that you just gave, I
Right.
think that's so true. Like you and your sister could hear
Yeah.
the same thing or be
And
told the
then-
same thing, but
right,
interpret it
and then
totally differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I used to, and I have to hang up on you guys, but
I know.
I know.
I used to see my doctors as like evil, and then it took me a long time to recognize, like, oh my God, these people were dealing with a 12-year-old, and there was only 8 other people in the world who had been born with my problem. And they were, how generous they were with their time and love and kindness and what they did for me. But it took me a long time to see that view.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
does. You have to.
You have to really examine it.
You really
and be
do,
put in
and
a
to-
position where you're able to really.
Yeah,
kinda
and then as you
like-
get older and you look
Yeah,
back
you
and
could-
you recognize, oh my gosh, how did I think
right
that way
right,
when this
right.
is
and you still
what they were
carry
really
around all of that stuff.
Yeah. All right, we know you have to
we
go.
know you have to
but
go.
Kim,
Name of your
please,
book
please
is This
come
Is What
back.
You're
Oh, sorry.
Really
Go ahead.
Hungry For.
Okay.
Please come back and talk to us again.
Is
I
there
would love-
anything real
I'd
quick?
love to.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners? Anything that you have coming
No,
up?
I mean,
okay.
I want to come back. This was so much fun.
I
I
know.
feel like
I would love for you to come back.
We'd
because
love for you to come back.
As I say all the
be
time, I'm
best
like,
friends.
Yeah, there's
we
like
can.
totally. I'm like,
I've
here
got-
are all the questions
these are
that
all
we
my
didn't
questions.
ask.
I'm like,
Oh no, we'll do it again.
Do
for
it again.
sure, promise.
Okay,
Thank you.
please. Okay,
Thank
yay.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much
Thanks
for being here. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, that was great. And boy, does she have your number. Like she, at the minute she came out and she said that she like shopped to feel better, I was like, oh boy, this is taking a turn. We're not talking about food anymore.
No, she was my kindred spirit.
She was. She
She got over hers, though, it seems. It seems. She's a little
Somebody
bit more
has not.
well-adjusted than I am.
Someone is not.
Yeah,
But wow,
I'm
she
trying.
really. I mean, she just really has a very good way of looking at food, and as someone who's like struggled so much with food my whole life, Her steps are all valid steps.
They are, and they're
know?
so simple. Like I love
Yeah.
how she simplified it, but it's funny because the conversation took such a
I
not
know.
a turn, but like we veered off in so many different directions that
but it just shows that the way you're feeling about certain things, like the way you feel about food a certain way, and so do I, and they're different, but they're treated the same way.
yeah, it still comes
Yeah.
back to fear.
Fear, yeah,
And
like the
safety
stress
and
feeling safe, and I eat to feel safe, and you don't eat to feel safe.
right. Like yeah. Yep.
That's interesting. That really is interesting.
I mean, so much that she said was
I know.
was just so eye opening.
Really? I
But we
know.
have to have her back
I
because
know.
I have so many more questions.
know.
Yeah,
well,
we didn't even get into like
No.
half of it, but we'll
anyway,
have her back.
Yeah,
so,
she was great. So I hope you like this one too. I'm Lori Scholes.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
This was Everybody Talks.
Talk to you next time.
Take care.
For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, and to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shali, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Join the Everybody Talks community by checking out our Patreon page, where you can become an exclusive member of our wellness group and be a part of the conversation.
And don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Scholes and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, and Murray.
Talk to you next time.